The European Union is a community of 27 member states who have agreed to work together for greater economic and social benefits. Today, there are almost 500 million citizens in the European Union who all share common rights to work, study, live, and travel in any country within the EU. This is possible due to the elimination of border and trade restrictions. This has allowed the EU to become the largest single market in the world. From its capital in Brussels, the European Union passes laws to regulate the single market. It is estimated that 60 to 80% of all laws passed in Europe originate in Brussels. Despite this impact on daily life, citizens are often unaware of how the EU operates and what it aims to accomplish. To understand what the EU is all about and how it got to where it is today, we need to start at the beginning.
The story of European Union begins with the end of World War II, which was more destructive than anything Europe had experienced. It was a total war. The killing and destruction reached everyone, not just the soldiers. Ordinary citizens personally experienced the horrors of war, and entire cities were bombed to the ground. Some 19 million Europeans were killed, and another 20 million died in the Soviet Union. After the tragedies of World War II, the Holocaust, concentration camps, and the bombing and killing of innocent civilians, Europe was left in desolation and with little hope. How would the people of Europe recover? How would they move on? How could they ensure that in the future, Europe would never return to this gruesome past? An answer to this question came from Frenchman Jean Monnet. Originally a salesman of cognac, Monnet had helped Britain, France, and America coordinate the production of wartime materials during World War II. Through his experiences, Monnet realized that Europe needed a way to make war impossible and avoid continuing this violent cycle. Monnet was given the task of economic planning for France's post-war recovery. He incorporated his ideas for peace in Europe with his plans for French economic recovery. Inspired by Monnet's idea, the French Minister of Finance, Robert Schuman, proposed a plan for an economic union across borders. The Schuman Declaration was presented on May 9, 1950, which is now known as Europe Day. The plan was to join the German and French coal and steel industries under one authority in order to turn historical enemies into partners. On April 18, 1951, 6 European nations founded the European Coal and Steel Community. France and Germany were joined by Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. This community was the first step towards full European unity.
In 1957, the 6 European Coal and Steel Community member states signed the Treaties of Rome. They agreed that economic integration would be the best way towards an ever closer union. They founded the European Economic Community, or the EEC, creating a common customs union which eliminated customs and duties on trade between member states and set a common external tariff on trade with countries outside the community. This way, French wine could be sold in Germany, Belgian beer could be sold in Luxembourg, and Italian cars could be sold in the Netherlands without added taxes. It also set common external tariffs on trade with countries outside the European Economic Community, meaning that countries such as Switzerland had to pay more to purchase the same Italian cars. As for the future of Europe, the 6 countries resolved to create a common market based on 4 fundamental freedoms: the freedom of movement of goods, services, persons, and capital. In addition, they created the European Atomic Energy Community for cooperation in atomic energy.
The Common Agricultural Policy, known as the CAP, was started in 1962. Its main purpose is to give subsidies to European farmers. This guarantees a minimum income for farmers and protects Europe's traditional agriculture. It also sets tariffs on foreign agriculture to protect European farmers. Although it is slowly being decreased, the cap has always been the largest part of the EU's budget.
In 1972, the EEC started the exchange rate mechanism. This would help stabilize the exchange rate between member states' currencies, an important step toward a monetary union and a single currency. They did this by deciding a central rate of all the member states' currencies and placing the limits on how much each currency could fluctuate against the central rate. Member states had to keep their currencies within these limits. The exchange rate mechanism was called the snake.
In 1979, members of the European Parliament were directly elected for the first time. This was the first time citizens could vote for politicians at the European level. For the EEC, this was a first step towards a democratic system where citizens, not just the governments, have a say.
In 1986, the EEC signed the Single European Act. The member states agreed to complete the single market and to set a strict deadline of December 31st, 1992, to reach this goal. Close to 300 new laws would need to be passed to complete the single market in this time.
The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the end of the Cold War changed the landscape of Europe. Eastern and Western Europeans were no longer separated. With the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe, the European community could now consider new opportunities for expansion and support the growth of democracy.